Good morning, students. Today now we are going to see subject of commerce. First, you should know what is commerce. Commerce is the exchange of goods and services, especially on a large scale. It includes legal, economic, political, social, cultural and technological systems that operate in a country or in international trade. In the economic sense, commerce refers to the conduct of trade among economic agents. The first lesson is about history of subcontinent. Introduction. Commerce has been in practice since time immemorial. It is part and parcel of human life, whether it is a king or a common man. It emerged as an economic activity mainly as a barter system, which means exchange of goods for goods. It was so comfortable for neighboring villages, states, even countries to practice barter in the absence of a medium of exchange in the form of money today. The whole of commerce activity emerged from barter system into a multi-dimensional and multifaceted scientific system consisting of courses like monetary system, mail order business, hire purchase system, installment purchase system and so on. In a technology-driven society, today again the course of commerce activities is heading for a cashless system through e-commerce, which means business activities enabled through electronic modes like online trading, that is mobile banking and e-marketing. So these are the two things which comes under this online trading. Next we can see the example for this trading activities where the buying and selling has taken place. Next we can see the meaning of vanigam or vaniyam or vanipam. Here the word vaniyam or vanipam would have had a Dravidian origin. The early Tamils produced their products and goods in their lands and bartered their surplus, and that is how trade came into existence. The word vanigam has been widely used in Sangam literature like Purananuru and Tirukural. Now we can see some of the points which comes under this vanigam. Trade in Sangam period was both internal and external, but it was conducted by means of barter. Second point, trade was one of the major means of linking various regions in the medieval period. The third point is Sangam work refers to great traders, their caravans, security force, markets, marts and guilds of such great traders. And the fourth point is the important articles which the then Heli tribes offered to their neighbors in exchange were honey and roots and fruits, while pastoral people offered cattle, milk and milk products. And the last point is cattle served as money for sometimes during the same period. So these are the main points which comes under this vanigam. Next we can see the trade and traders in the Pandya dynasty. So here the trade and commerce was so common to Pandya dynasty. Informations collected from the diaries of foreign travelers, voyagers, mariners and adventurers of the ancient world highlighted the prosperity of trade in the Pandya country. The place where the goods were sold was called Angadi in their period. Day market was called as Nallangadi, while the night market was called as Allangadi, according to this saint poet Elango in Silapadigaram, Madurai, Kanchi. Next one, coastal trade in ancient Tamil Nadu. Big cities like Pumbuhar had the Marurapakkam, that is inland town, and Patinapakkam, that is coastal town, had market and bazaars where many merchants met one another for the purpose of selling or buying different kinds of commodities and foodstuff. Here they use the port towns like Tondi, Korkai, Puhar and Musiri were always seen as busy with marts and markets with activities which related to the imports and the exports. Next, we can see the role of the government during the ancient Tamil Nadu. Foreigners who transacted business were known as Yavanas. Arabs who traded with Tamil were called as Jonagar. Many such ports were developed during the Sangam period. Kaveri Poomattinam was the chief port of the kingdom of Cholas, while Nagapattinam, Marakkanam, Arikamedu, etc. were other small ports on east coast. Similarly, Pandyas developed Korkai, Saliyur, Kayal, Marangur, Pattinam and Kumari were foreign trade. The state governments installed checkposts to collect customs along the highways and the ports. So these are the things which comes under this role of the government during the ancient Tamil Nadu. Next, contribution of Kautilya to trade. So this Kautilya Arthashastra describes economy in Mauryan time. This brought out history of marketing practiced some 2000 years ago. According to Kautilya, trade in medieval India was centralized. Since the commodities produced could not be sold in the location of production, the state designated certain places for selling the commodities. Kautilya gave importance for the state in relation to treasury, taxation, industry, commerce, agriculture and conservation of natural resources. Arthashastra focused on creation of wealth as the means to promote the well-being of the state. So this is called to be as a contribution of Kautilya to trade. The next one is commerce and trade in North India. Balban was the first sultan who paved the way in the dense forest and helped traders and their commercial caravans to move from one marketplace to others. Here the important trade centers were Delhi, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Sonar, Sonargaon, Jaunpur, Lahore and so on. India imported horses, dry fruits, precious stones, glassware, high-grade textiles, raw silk, corals, scented oils, velvets, etc. from Kabul, Arabia, Europe, West Asia and China. The traders of Malabar, Gujarat and foreign settlers in the port of Calicut, Kumbat and Mangalore controlled a major business sector in port cities. So these are all things will comes under this commerce and trade in North India. The next topic is trade with Rome, China and Europe. Under this, Rome and Greek traders frequented the ancient Tamil country and forged trade relationship with ancient kings of Pandya, Chola and Chera dynasties. Cholas had a strong trading relationships with Chinese Song dynasty. The Cholas conquered the Sri Vijaya Empire of Indonesia and Malaysia to secure a sea trading route to China. During the 16th and 18th centuries, India's overseas trade expanded due to trading with European companies. Textiles and shipbuilding earned name and fame in the 17th and 18th centuries. And the last point is, between early 1600s and mid 19th century, the British East India Company led establishment and expansion of foreign trade all over Asia. This is all about the trade with Rome, China and Europe. The next we are going to see is barter system. Under this barter system, goods were exchanged for goods prior to invention of money. Barter system worked on certain conditions mentioned below. The first point is, each party to barter must have surplus stocks for the trade to take place. And the second point is, both the buyers and the sellers should require the goods each other desperately. That is double coincidence of wants. And the third point is, buyer and seller should meet personally to effect the exchange. So these are the following conditions which will come under this barter system. The next is constraints in barter system. Under this, the first point is lack of double coincidence of wants. Double coincidence of wants is a requirement for an efficient barter system. It was necessary for a person who wanted to trade his or her good or services to find some another person who was not only willing to buy his goods or services but also possessed that goods which the former wanted. Thus, the exchange becomes a laborious and time-consuming process. The next one is lack of a common measure of value. That is, the lack of a common unit in which the value of goods and services should be measured. Even if the two persons who wanted each other's goods meet by coincidence, a problem arises as to which proportion of the two goods should be exchanged. So, the rate of the exchange was arbitrarily fixed according to the intensity of demand for each other's goods. The next one is lack of direct contact between producer and consumers. It was not possible for buyers and sellers to meet face to face in many contexts for exchanging the commodities for commodities. This hindered the process of barter in all practical sense. And the last one is lack of surplus stock. Absence of surplus stock was one of the impediments in barter system. If the buyers and sellers do not have surplus, then no barter was possible. So these are all about the constraints of barter system. Next, invention of money. All the aforesaid constraints were addressed by the invention of money as medium of exchange. There are other hindrances in the smooth exchange of goods from the place of production to the place of consumption, like place, time, risk, knowledge and finance. The next is hindrance of commerce. Production of goods and services for the satisfaction of human wants is the main objective of an industry. Commerce serves as a valuable link between the producer and the consumer. It renders a variety of services to ensure that the passage of goods and services between the two is completed without any let or hindrance. Accordingly, commerce may be defined as the organized system for the exchange of goods and services between members of industrial world. It comprises all forms of trade, wholesale, retail, import, export and entrepreneurial services which aid and assist the trading activities such as banking, transport, warehousing, insurance and advertising. So these are the things which comes under this hindrance of commerce. The next we are going to see is elimination of hindrance of commerce. Here, business consists of all industries and commerce. It serves to remove several hindrances and solve many problems while facilitating the production and distribution of goods. Under this, the first one is hindrance of person. Manufacturers do not know the place and face of the consumers. It is the retailer who knows the taste, preference and location of the consumers. The chain of middlemen consisting of wholesalers, agents and retailers establish the link between the producers and consumers. So this is called to be as an hindrance of person. The second one is hindrance of place. Production takes place in one center and consumers are spread throughout the country and world. So here, rail, air, sea and land transports bring the products to the place of consumers. So this is called to be as a hindrance of place. The third one is hindrance of time. Consumers want products whenever they have money, time and willingness to buy. Goods are produced in anticipation of such demands. They are stored in warehouses in different regional centers so that they can be distributed at the right time to the consumers. So this is called to be as an hindrance of time. The fourth one is hindrance of risk of deterioration in quality. Proper packaging and modern air-conditioned storage houses ensure that there is no deterioration in quality of products. Goods are protected against insects, rats, evaporation, etc. The next one is hindrance of risk of loss. Fire, theft, floods and accidents may bring huge loss to the business. So, insurance companies serve to cover the risk of such losses. The sixth point is hindrance of knowledge. Advertising and communication helps in announcing the arrival of new products and their uses to the people. The seventh point is hindrance of exchange. Money functions as a medium of exchange and enable the buying and selling of any products or service by payment of the right price. So this is called to be as a hindrance of exchange. The eighth point is hindrance of finance. Producers and traders may not have the required funds at the time of their need. Banks and other financial institutions, they provide funds and help in transfer of funds to enable the functioning of business smoothly. That is called to be as a hindrance of finance. The ninth one is hindrance of developing the exact product. Under this, research and development helps in developing the exact product or service which can satisfy the specific wants of consumers, and thus it improves the standard of living of the people. And the last hindrance is hindrance of both selection and delivery at doorsteps. E-commerce enables the consumer to select the product in the website, place online orders and make payment after receiving the product at the doorstep. Thus, these are all about the elimination of hindrances of commerce.